we are candid. We talk straight talk. We tell people what we think. And that tradition and those values live today.
Are the source of all governmental power. That the authority of the people is to be extended. We believe, not restricted, in equality for all and privileges for none.
All right. Well, hey, Kendyll, thank you for joining me, and welcome everybody to Dem Good Time. Of course, I am Rachel, the Communications Director for Tarrant County Democratic Party, and joining me, let me introduce yourself here.
Hey, everybody. Kendyll. Hey, everybody. This is Kendyll Locke, Vice Chair of your Tarrant County Democratic Party. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Yes, Kendyll, our co-fearless leader. Co-fearless leader? It works. It works.
It works. Yeah.
It works. So we were chatting a little bit before we actually got started officially, but how are you recovering from convention, of course?
You know, the Texas Democratic Convention, for those of you guys who didn't know, was here in Dallas. So our neighbors to, I guess, what is that, the west or east? Needless to say, it was here, and I'm recovering slowly but surely. It was a lot of walking. It was a lot of driving from here and there. It was a lot of turn on your smiling face because you're about to see so many people. But it was definitely a great time. It was good to reconnect with so many, amazing Democrats in this work, and just to hear from some of our powerful speakers that we had. So it was a great time. I enjoyed it, and I can't wait until the next one.
It was a damn good time, if I say so myself.
Hey,
I know I'm being corny. I'll do it. I'll own it. It's fine. Yeah, it was good. I like you, am still kind of recovering because it was a lot of walking, a lot of spread out space. Of course, there were, 1,000? Like how many? Like it was a really good crowd.
It was packed.
Yeah, and I mean the speakers. Can we talk about some of the speakers?
Let me tell you, I think the speakers that did it for me was Pastor Haynes. So when he was introducing Beto, it was just powerful, and it hit on everything that is going on across our state. When you look at all the different issues, from the unfortunate, incident that we see, or shooting that happened in Uvalde, and just everything that's going on, he really brought it home on the importance of making sure that we elect Beto O'Rourke as our new governor. So I think he was the speaker that really did it for me. It was energizing. He brought the energy. He had us all ready, or at least he had me ready to say, okay, where can I send money? Where can I walk? When is your next walk? Let me get out there and make sure that we get this guy elected as our next governor. So he was a fantastic speaker.
Oh, for sure. Agree on all those fronts. I gotta say though, for me, because there were so many great speakers. It's really hard to choose. But I have to say, the one that really kind of got me going, and energized, and kind of gave me that rejuvenation of spirit, if you will, my will to keep going and all this. Was Wendy Davis, was the pro-choice caucus speaker event, and she really got up there and made a point of talking about look at what they're doing. Look at what they're doing in Texas. They are now trying to propose, not just in Texas, other states across the country, legislation to limit where we can travel. They think they own us, and what, really? You think you get to tell me where I can go for medical care? That's no. And then again, the same caucus event, the same speaker, they had some candidates come up at the very end, get to give a quick little 1-minute spiel. And there was one candidate, and I wish I caught her name, I did not. But she got up there and talked about her daughter being the meanest little thing you ever met, which was just, it sounds strange, but it was adorable. And again, it's just that real world, just everyday fight to just exist and be ourselves in our own existence. And it was empowering. So lots of great speeches. And you made great points also, Kendyll, that we've got to elect Beto, but we've got to elect the down ballot as well, right?
100%, 100%. And I think that was one of the great things to see at this year's convention. And of course, last year, we weren't able, or back in 2020, we weren't able to meet or convene in person.
Right.
But that was one of the most exciting things for me, is to see so many of our down ballot candidates and even some of our municipal candidates from all across the state join. And, that is true. Of course, we have some great statewide that are going to be at the top, but we need to focus in on our county commissioner races. We have some justice of the peace races. We have our judicials. So we just have some great candidates that are down ballot that, I know we're going to be doing work with the party, but also in our respective spaces. But definitely want to encourage each of you all, if you don't know who's on your ballot for this upcoming November general election, please make sure that you do your research now, that you connect with a candidate. These are the candidates that are in your backyard. These are the candidates that you would probably be surprised to know that they live less than 5 miles away from you. And so find a way to connect with them, figure out what you can do. I think a lot of times as Democrats, we don't think about the small things. We always think about, well, I don't have $50, or I can't give $250 to go to that fundraiser, or I don't really have time to go out and walk because I'm watching, my kid, or whatever that looks like. But there's so many ways to be impactful, whether that's sharing a post, whether that is tweeting about your candidate of choice, whether that's just calling my friend and I'm saying, hey, Rachel, what are you doing? Have you voted? So
Yeah.
there's so
Yeah.
many things that we can do as fellow Democrats to just make sure that we're out there and that we're getting people involved, but that overall we are making our voices count and making sure that they're being heard when it comes time to vote. So, yes, a lot of amazing down ballot candidates. And while I love all of our statewide, we definitely have to see some gains on our down ballot candidates, or with our down ballot candidates.
Yes. Agreed. Agreed. Um, which reminds me, a little party plug here. July 30th, we are having our second town. It's kind of a town hall, but it's we're calling it our supply drive and candidate forum. So we're going to have some wonderful candidates, down ballot candidates that you get, that the public will get to hear from, get to know, and see what they're really about. So join us, bring some unopened school supplies that we can donate to, families in need, teachers in need, teachers buy school supplies too.
Right.
So just trying to help out any way we can, but also reach out and, be with the community and let them hear from our candidates who really are committed, wonderful candidates, many of whom we saw at, the July 4th and convention as well. So,
Yeah.
we'll park there. 4 to 7, I think. Yes, 4 to 7 will be the candidate forum. So join us at the local Fort Worth. It's going to be a good time.
Turn up, you have your candidates and school supplies. What better duo?
Yes. And not to freak anyone out. Okay, maybe to freak you out a little. But when this airs, which we're recording this on Tuesday, but it's going to air on Thursday. But when this airs, it's only 110 days until November 8th. 110.
Yeah.
So
Close. It's getting close. And
it is.
the more that we approach that day, the more I get anxious and anxious and anxious.
See, to me, it's like a countdown. Like, okay, how many days left to do something? How many days left to do something? And then, like, okay, Thursday when this airs, you got 110 days to take action before the midterms, to see who you can motivate, who you can remind, talk to, whatever it is. Like Kendall said, it really is those little conversations.
Yeah.
Just at opportune moments when they present themselves, or when you take the leap and say, hey, let's talk about this with your fellow PTA mom, in my case, about gun violence and what we're worried about now for this coming school year. Like that is a conversation that I think a lot of parents sadly are having.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I'll say, so 2 things. One, quick plug. If you aren't registered to vote, please make sure that you get
Yes.
registered. I don't have the date off the top of my head, but know that that date is approaching to where it will be the deadline to register. Rachel,
October 11th.
Boom. There we go. So you have
What's your
until
deadline?
October the 11th, but why wait until October the 11th when you can
Right.
literally do it now?
Do it now.
Like while you're listening to us, you should like print out your form and fill it out. But
Just
go
go to mytexasvotes.com. You can do it all right there. Walks you through it. It's great.
boom. Boom. So go ahead and please get registered to vote if you have not already. But like Rachel said, we know that school safety is a big, big, big issue. And it's always been an issue, but of course now it's more so at the forefront. And so, one of the things that I always like to encourage people to do is advocacy is one of the best weapons that you have as an individual. And so make sure that you are engaging with your elected officials, not only your statewide elected officials, but also your local elected officials. Try to engage in those meaningful conversations with your city council members and figure out what their plans are in terms of preparing their police departments and making sure that they're providing the necessary support to our ISDs all across the state. But make sure that you're using your voice. I mean, our legislators and our elected officials need to understand that this isn't a political issue. Keeping our kids safe is not political. It's the right thing to do. And so we need to make sure that they understand where we stand as individuals, whether you have a kid or child that is enrolled in school, whether you have a sibling, a cousin, whatever. We need to make sure that our elected officials are keeping that at top of mind and that they know that before school starts, which I know in some cases, in some ISDs across the school or across the state, there's school is already in session for some of those kiddos. So we just want to make sure that we're able to keep them safe, making sure that we're doing everything we can and making sure that we're able to prevent these horrible situations that we're seeing that's happening all across the country. So just use your voice. That's really all I have to say on that, because they need to understand that it's not these political sound bites. It's not, Republican or Democrat. Shit, I could care less, what you are, how you identify. I just want you to be safe because that is the right thing to do. So
Same. I mean, I'm represented in my area currently, for now, by a Republican, and it does not matter to me that she is Republican. She is my representative, and my kids, I want them to be in a safe environment. I want them to be safe at school. Being also a former teacher, I want those teachers, the support staff, the administrators, everyone to feel safe. I mean, this whole idea, this conversation I keep hearing around guns, the issue of gun violence, is really, like it's gotten this weird place where we're talking about like soft targets versus hard targets.
yeah.
All of society is a soft target unless you want to harden everything. So
it just is. And then I always say, like, so when the situation first happened, the shooting first happened in Uvalde, and we saw all of the craziness that the Republicans were shooting out and all of that. I go back and I say, think about the kids that saw that. Think about the students that watch the news, because it's not just us as adults that are watching and that are seeing all of this take place. Like, there are literally students that will be scared to go in and step foot in a school this upcoming school year. And so we should be, I know we have some amazing Democratic elected officials who are, working hard and trying to
yes,
push these conversations, but it's going to take all of us. And, my thing is, regardless of your political party, think about those students. What if it was your child? What if it was your student? Would you want them to be safe? Would you want to ensure that we're able to equip and have all the resources put into that respective school to ensure that we can keep the people in that building safe? So it's just, it's one of those things that, keep me up at night. And it's just something that I hate that we are even having to have that conversation. But of course, it's a very real conversation, and it's something that I hope our elected officials will take a more bold approach on, and ensuring that we're actually addressing it with some solutions and not just continuing to have these hearings and, putting out sound bites and statements, but we really need action.
I mean, right. It's been 55 days Now I think 56 maybe, but it's been over 50 days since the shooting happened. And we have a governor who does not think that warrants an emergency session, does not think that warrants any kind of action on his part or his party. Like, they are more worried about playing politics.
Yeah, you can call a special session to take away my right to vote. You can call a special session on everything in your playbook, but when it comes to something that should be a basic fundamental protection
Saves lives.
right, you won't call one. So I don't know, and one of the things that I'm hopeful for is hopefully everyone across the state is watching and understanding that when we say that we need to elect Beto O'Rourke, it's not because he's a Democrat, but it's because we know that Greg Abbott has failed leadership across this state. And so when we talk about the issues regarding access to abortion, when we talk about the issues regarding access to our fundamental right to vote, when we talk about making sure that our schools have the funding that they need, when we talk about making sure that we can change the rate of those who are insured in our country, those are real issues that affect everyday Texans, regardless of where you fall on that political spectrum. And so you need a leader who's going to make sure that we are addressing those issues and that those issues are being delivered for people across the state. And so one of the things that I'm hopeful for is that, people will start looking at some of these issues and start thinking about how they actually apply to their lives. And hopefully that will translate into, them getting out to vote, because honestly, these are issues that we've seen decades of failed leadership, and we just can't continue to go down this same path.
20 years. I say it all the time. 20 years. We have been under Republican rule in Texas, and we don't have energy stability, even though we're one of the biggest producers. We don't have safe schools, and we don't have adequate funding, adequate healthcare coverage, even though we're taking away healthcare from half the population. Like, it's really not blue versus red. It's just, it's care versus corruption. I mean, really, like, Greg Abbott got what? I mean, and the Republicans, what was it, like 4.6 million or something was reported on from the energy companies to claim they fixed the grid. And here we are in the heat. It was the cold. Now it's the heat too. So all the time, basically, we can't depend on our grid. Like, that's insane.
Yep. And then you have good old, ERCOT that are issuing out warnings every other day saying conserve your power, conserve your energy. And so it's just a big mess. But all more the reason why you should get out and vote. And even if, for some odd reason, you maybe can't vote for whatever your circumstance may be, you still have a right in ensuring that you are advocating to your elected officials on the issues that matter most to you and making sure that they're delivering on those issues. So needless to say, I think that's what, we all strive to do here, even with this podcast. Like, we want to talk about the issues. We want to make sure that, you're staying informed, but we want to make sure that ultimately you're using your voice and you're using your power, because everyone has, power within them. It's not just because we're leaders within the party, but I mean, you as a everyday person, you have the ability to make your voice be heard. And, oftentimes, I tell people all the time, especially in my world with working for an elected officials, some of them, they aren't in touch with everything. And I definitely, we have some of those horrible elected officials out there, but we also have some elected officials who they can't be everywhere. And so oftentimes they aren't able to tap into those communities because they're not getting, that feedback. So let's just always try to find those opportunities to connect with them, find those opportunities to respectfully engage in that dialogue and see how we can all work together to push the needle or to move the needle forward.
I'm going to come at it from a different angle, if you will. How about that?
For sure.
Be selfish. Advocate for yourselves, right? Be selfish. Politics is personal. You're
Yep.
supposed to advocate for yourself and your community. Do it. Do it loudly and proudly. If we're not advocating for ourselves, we've seen the mob on January 6th. We've seen the other side and what they're willing to do and say, and continue to do openly.
Yep.
Like, they're advocating. We've got to be just as passionate and as loud. And I think we are. It's just a matter of, being a little rusty maybe, but we can do this.
Yeah.
We can do this.
We can. We sure can.
So speaking of Uvalde, bringing it back for a second. They've released a 77-page report. I don't know if you've heard of this, from the Texas House. And the part I think that's most devastating to me is that 376, so almost 400 law enforcement officers were at the school. And it was still over an hour before action was taken to neutralize, to stop the shooter.
Ridiculous.
Yes. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've watched the video of them in the hallway. I mean, casually getting hand sanitizer at one point.
Yep. Checking your phone. Yeah. It's just ridiculous. There's nothing else that I have to say other than it's ridiculous. I mean, we count on our law enforcement to be there for two main reasons: to serve and to protect. And this is what I'm about to say in no way a strike against law enforcement. It's no way to say that I am against law enforcement, because I appreciate them. I appreciate what they do for our communities. And I recognize the importance of having them in, and across our communities. However, to have law enforcement be there with the sole purpose of serving and protecting, you have over 300 officers in one central location. You have a shooter that is in one central location, and it takes over an hour to neutralize the shooter. I mean, I just want that to sink in for all of y'all.
And the officers have shields.
Yeah.
They have their own firepower. I mean, you can see it on the video.
Yeah.
The part that's haunting me, I think, probably because I'm a parent, but the captioning that says, the sound of children's screams have been removed. They're standing in that hallway. It's not removed for them. They can hear all that. And they still stood there. I mean, and I go back and forth because as a parent, I'm just so devastated and angry about all of this. But then I step back for a minute, and my dad was a police officer before he died for over 25 years. And I think about, I try to take a minute and think about where they're coming from. And I honestly, in that specific situation, I just really can't. Every instinct, if I'm hearing that, is to go try to do something. And I know I don't have training and, whatnot. They have training. They have weapons. They have shields. They're hearing it and they don't act. On the flip side, in everyday interactions, they go up to a car for a traffic stop. They don't know if they have a gun because we have permitless carry. We've made it this insane world where they are freaking out because we all are, right? We all are to that point.
Yep.
That's the world we've created. And I don't think that's the world we intended for ourselves or our children or the ones who come after. And the only way that changes is voting.
Yep.
I know that's not a satisfactory answer for most people, but that is the truth. We've had 20 years that led us to this this juncture we're at. And are we deciding to just, okay, it is what it is, guess we can't do anything? Or are we going to say, no, this is insane. This is enough.
Yep.
I tend to think, I tend to be hopeful in November. We're going to say, like, this is enough.
Yeah.
This is not okay. We don't trust, we don't distrust teachers to teach just basic history and try to implement and tell them what to say, almost verbatim sometimes. We don't do that. But on the other hand, let's arm them, because we don't want to regulate or try to have any kind of common sense gun safety in our state. Like, those, they don't add up. They don't add up. So I'd like to stop that insanity and get people in there that just want to say, okay, look, here's the issue. We all can see it. We're not going to gaslight you. This is the issue.
Right.
And let's address it. That's what I want. And that's what we've lacked for so long in Texas.
Yeah. No, you're spot on. I completely agree with you. And I think if maybe we should title this episode, Is it worth it? Because ultimately that's what it boils down to on so many levels. And that's what's at stake this election is, is it worth it? Are our kids, worth the vote? Are our, women worth the vote? Are our rights and our right to vote, worth the vote? Because if we do not get out and do our part in November, we are going to see a even more horrendous legislative session. And I'm only talking about on the state level, but we can even go up to the federal level with Congress. But specifically here in Texas, we are going to have an even more horrendous legislative session come January when the legislature swears in for the next legislative session. And so I just can't ask, any more of you in terms of getting out to vote, because literally, that's that is what at stake. This is what's at stake. Excuse me, this upcoming election. And so I just hope that we all recognize that we have a part to play, and that if we don't play that part, that everything that we've seen is going to continue to happen. And it's going to continue to be amplified because we have failed leaders who are sitting at the top and who have the opportunity to actually address these issues, but they choose not to.
Yeah. I mean, it's great. That's a great way to put it. Is it worth it? And I agree. It has to be, right? Look at all they've already done and gotten away with. Like you said, the voter they can have a special session for voter suppression, for taking away votes off the table that they think might hurt them. There's no other good reason. There's been no fraud found. We've had an audit in Texas after the orange man, ordered it. They can't be rewarded for that, basically, right? It may be comforting to kind of go back to our corners and be like, that's not the Trump Republican Party. That's just Texas Republicans, and they're going to talk about lowering property taxes. They haven't done it in 20 years. Right. They're going to talk about
20 years is the number.
I'm sorry, 20 years, right? It's almost half my life. I'm aging myself a little bit.
That is my life. I turned 20 in August. That's my life.
Right.
All of my life.
This has been your world, and has it been working out great? Like, are there improvements needed? I would think so.
Yep. Right.
So it really is just a matter of, do we want to reward that, right? They didn't fix the grid. They took a bunch of money instead. They didn't call a special session when children are being gunned down. That doesn't warrant a special session, right? They can't be rewarded for that. If we reelect them as a state, as a county, we are rewarding that and emboldening that.
Mhm.
So I think you're spot on too, Kendall. I mean, that's what happens.
Yeah.
You know, like we're seeing at the very top with the January 6th hearings, you know, all this talk around the Tangerine Tyrant about how, you know, he didn't know or he thought. He's a 76-year-old man. He's
Yeah.
not a child. And
Yeah.
let's try just some straight talk with that, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right? Let's not reward that. He knew they were armed coming to the Capitol, right?
And he didn't care.
And
Like
he didn't care.
that's the whole thing that is, still mind blowing to
With
me.
his own
Like
people
100%.
inside. Did not care.
He knew. We have people who are literally who were part of the rioters, who literally or insurrectionists who are literally saying, I did it because he only asked me for two things. He asked for my vote and he asked for me to be there at the Capitol.
Yeah.
And so we have a man who was a sitting president who encouraged people to storm the Capitol because an election that was an election of the people didn't go the way that he wanted it to go. And so he's admitted it. He wanted to be there with his people,
He
and
live
so the
tweeted.
fact that we continue to say, "Well, oh, he didn't know," or "Oh, well, this isn't," or "Oh," I mean, let's just stop it. I mean, it was an insurrection. It happened. He was supportive of it. He would have been there had the Secret Service not held him back. And he wanted that to happen. He wanted to overthrow and to eliminate a democratic process that has happened for years and years and years. And so, I don't know if that is more scary in watching the January 6th hearings and, just hearing all of this craziness, or the potential fact that he may be running in 2024.
It's just all too much, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, his own elected, his own party is inside. His own party is at risk. His own vice president, and he's like, maybe he deserves it. Maybe he deserves it. No, not even who cares. Maybe he deserves it because it's all about him. It's not about us, the country. It's not about the voters. It's not about uplifting everybody and helping to reinforce and
Yeah.
it's not about anything but himself.
He's a narcissist.
Yeah.
He is a self-entitled person who wants it to be his way. He's not going to do anything but ensure that he is taken care of. And so I just hope that people are continuing to observe and to listen and to understand the dynamics that are at play. And I will just say the fact that he was elected is a testament to where we are still as a country. And so I will just say to everyone, we're going to continue drilling it in. You need to get out and vote. And you have to be active and you have to be involved and recognizing that you can do a small part in this thing called, democracy. And so needless to say, I'm just going to be very surprised to see or interested to see the rest of the hearings kind of play out and just see the more and more testimony that we have in front of us.
Yeah, I mean, and it really is. I know there's plenty of people that are like, the minute we say like you gotta vote, there's like, oh, all I hear is vote, vote, vote. Plus we're talking about all the voter suppression and things like that. So they're like, well, okay, which is it? Right? It's both. I'm sorry, both.
That's what we're working with.
Right. I mean, we've had 20 years of, like I said, I'll admit we're a little rusty. It's, like it should have been a little more all along the way, but we're here where we are now and we can't change past tense stuff because it's in the past. Right.
Right.
So let's move forward, and moving forward, it's going to take all of us. It's going to take all of those little conversations, that little bit you can do every day, whether it's, you know what, I got a spare 20 minutes, so I'm going to write some postcards to voters to see if I can activate them that way. Or I've got an hour I'm going to set aside each month to volunteer, so I'm going to just spend an hour texting, do text banking or phone banking or block blocking, whatever it may be. You know, I like to think, I know a lot of people probably feel overwhelmed with just all the news, because that's kind of the design of all this, right? Trump throws all the chaos out there and it just feels like, oh, it's too much. And you just want to check out of all of it, which I get sometimes. But I like to kind of take it back to this concept, I think, to make it feel less overwhelming. You know, 2 plus me make it 3, right? We have voter suppression in Texas, heavy voter suppression. So it should be enough to just go vote. And I thank you for everybody. Do that, please. Go vote. But don't just stop there, right? Activate 2 more, triple your vote, every person does that. We can win. We have almost 300,000 registered. Y'all have already done the hard part, right? Because it's not as easy to register in Texas. We don't have online registration. We should. 20 years. Yeah. So, but do that, you know, make sure you go vote, but then triple it by activating 2 other people. And if we all do that, we win. And Tarrant County is considered one of the reddest in Texas, not because of actual number of voters. No. It's the non-voters. Meaning it's very flippable. Very flippable. It's just everybody's got to show up.
Everyone has to do their part. And, you know, like I always say, if everyone does a little, we can get a lot done. And that's literally what it boils down to. And then too, like taking it a step further, like we definitely have to get to November. We definitely know what's at stake this upcoming November, but it doesn't stop there. And, you know, next year we have our municipals. Then we'll go back to having more and more, you know, different races that will be on the ballot. So just making sure that we are becoming consistent voters, and we are, you know, finding ways to, even in the off years, which there's never really an off year.
There's no off years, okay?
But
election years every year. There are no off years. There are none. We're going to drop that from our vocabulary because every year is election year.
But making sure that even when, you know, you think that, okay, I don't have to vote until 6 months down the road. Okay, well, there's something you can't be doing. There is a hearing that you can be attending. There is a meeting you can be attending. There is a, you know, town hall that your elected official is having. Like, we just have to make sure that we're finding ways to, like, take the vote to the next level and turn that into something much more than you just going in to the ballot box. That's great, and I appreciate it, and we need it. But let's find those ways to be and go to the next level.
For sure. And I mean, you know, join a local organization, join your local candidate and help them make shirts, right? It's every little bit.
Join the Democratic Party.
Of course, become a sustaining member of your local Democratic Party. Please and thank you. The more consistent we are with our donations, the more consistent we can be with our outreach, and the more ambitious we can be as well. So,
and don't be one of those people that say, I don't have $50, I'm not going to give. If you have $1, set a recurring contribution for $1. Like, you would be surprised at how much that adds up. And oftentimes, as Democrats, we are unsuccessful because we don't have those resources needed in order to effectively reach out to voters in a respective area. And so we do a lot, from making sure that we are out there in the field and knocking on doors and texting people and giving them those reminders and telling them about the issues, to making sure that we can do and put on programming like this, because I know you guys love the Dem Good Time that we're doing with y'all. But needless to say, we do a lot in ensuring that we're able to get out the message and get out the word, and ensure that we're able to help and support our candidates, but also
Right.
making sure that we're just able to get out people to vote. And so definitely consider supporting us. And it's not all financial. We have a lot of volunteer opportunities, and a lot of ways that you can connect with us. And we will be more than happy to help you and to connect you to a candidate. Just whatever you need, we're here as your resource hub.
Right. Or serve as an election worker, right? In the wake of the January, it all comes back to January 6th, because it is a top down approach to governing by the other side, which is to say, let's just make it all our way only,
Yep.
please. Right. No, thank you. Right. Our whole system is set up so we're supposed to compromise, and we've got one side that just says no to everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we're all, and then we have our side, like, frustrated because we want change. We want action on, climate change. Like, we're dealing with the heat and the repercussions of 20 years of inaction. It's time to act. It's time to do something. And it makes good business sense, right?
Yep.
It's
Yep.
financially helpful.
Yeah.
So win-win. Let's do some things. But in order to do that, we have to take action first, right?
Yep.
Because that's how it works on the Democratic side. It comes from the bottom up, right?
All the way. All the way.
So true, Kendall. Get involved however you can.
Yes.
Whatever contribution. I mean, $1 a month, we'll take it. Thank you.
Right.
Please and thank you. Right? No shame. No shame.
There's
If
not.
that's what you can afford, great. It's an investment in you. It's an investment in your future. It does help. Like, we print slate cards to hand out to the community to make it easy to identify your candidates. The outreach that we do here, the town halls, all those things, a lot of
And don't
times
think
cost
it's-
upfront money. So
Yeah, and don't think that it stops with us. Like, wow,
Mm-mm.
I would love for you all to be involved with us in our party. Like, there's so many great, amazing organizations out there
so many.
that are doing the work, that are working alongside us, and that are ensuring that we're able to each do our part. And so find those organizations, get connected with an organization. I think the main thing is getting connected wherever you're connected. Find those opportunities to get connected and be active, and just enjoy and ride the wave of just trying to be helpful. So
Yeah. So true. So true. So going back a little bit. Well, I'm thinking about the midterms. You want to talk about the midterms?
yeah, sure.
Okay.
So I'm excited about the upcoming midterms because we have a lot of great candidates that are running.
Yes.
Of course, we have a perfect opportunity. I know everyone talks a lot about, oh, are Democrats going to lose the House? I don't even think about that. We have great candidates that are out there, and so this midterm.
Small plug. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I apologize. I know I'm interrupting. I do
No, you're
apologize.
fine. You're fine.
TarrantDemocrats.org/voting101. You can get registered, find where to vote, get all the deadlines, the dates, and check out all our candidates. Okay.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes. So as far as our midterms, of course, we have several congressional races that are going on, which, of course, if you guys don't know, I think this is like one of the elections that I'm kind of most excited for. Jasmine
Okay.
Crockett, that
Yes.
amazing state representative, she represents
Yes.
your county now.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we have some amazing congressional candidates that are out there. Of course,
District
we have
30, right?
Yes, Congressional
Yes.
District 30. So if you're in the Grand Prairie part
Mhm.
of Tarrant County, a small sliver of Arlington, make sure that you get out and vote for Jasmine Crockett because she does have 4 opponents. I think everyone thinks that she won, but she won the primary, but she still has 4 opponents. But needless to say, we have some amazing candidates like Representative Crockett, other congressional candidates, statewide candidates.
Trey Hunt.
Trey Hunt, yes, who's
District
running
12.
against Kay Granger. We have Jan McDowell, I want to say.
24. Yep. Jan McDowell.
And we all know who she's. Well, yeah, I don't even want to talk about her opponent. We have, of course, Beto that's running at the top for governor. We have some Mike Collier running for light governor. Go ahead.
I do just need to bring up that her opponent, Jan McDowell, Beth Van Dyne, not once, but now twice, has been caught blasting the Biden administration policies and congressional, the Democrats, laws and things that the Democrats have passed that have helped during the pandemic. Blasted them at the time, voted no, and then is later now like praising and trying to take credit for. So
yeah, I think that's like a typical trend of Republicans.
It does seem to be, yeah. All the ideas people like, they're like, oh yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
No, you voted no.
Yeah. So how did you do it? But
how does that transfer?
Yeah. Also, too, if we want to talk about a few of our local races, we have Deborah Peoples, who's running for county judge. Yep. We have
mini celebrity at convention, by the way.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, our SD caucus was just like, woo! Of course, it's all.
And she was so perfect on stage, so perfect. We have Tiffany Burks, who's running for district attorney, which that is so specifically with. Deborah's race and Tiffany's race, the incumbents are not running. So those are open seats. So those are great opportunities for us to make sure that we're picking up those seats. We have Elisa Simmons in county commissioner seat, precinct number 2, which precinct number 2, it covers all of Southeast Tarrant County, Arlington, Grand Prairie, Mansfield, Dow Worthington Gardens, Kennedale, Pantego. I think that's it. But needless to say, that is a lot of our new Democratic growth across the county. So
really is.
We want to make sure that we can hold on to that seat. Our great friend, Commissioner Devin Allen, isn't running anymore. And so she is looking to pass that torch to Elisa Simmons. And so we definitely want to see her successful. But we also have some amazing judicial candidates like Ford
Tarrant. I love Ford Tarrant. They are phenomenal women.
They are phenomenal. Crystal Gaden running for the 324th District Court.
Lisa Pamplin.
Lisa Pamplin. Marquita Clayton. Amazing candidates that are running. We also have Alicia Darden, and I shouldn't have started naming names because I'm going to.
You're never going to get through them all, yes.
We have some amazing judicial candidates that are running, and I just want to say, of course, we have to get everyone else elected, but when we talk about implementing these laws and when we talk about ensuring that, we have the great policies that are set forth, we need judges who are going to, make sure.
Well, that reminds me. Okay, so to tie together for a minute, all the things we've been talking about, a lot of things.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for joining me today, by the way, Kendall.
Yeah.
Always love to chat with you, Big K. But we're seeing, a lot of frustration about being able to pass things at the national level for Democrats. Right now, Joe Manchin just derailed climate talks yet again, stifling the national agenda. And people are like, why can't Democrats control everything? Why can't they just do this or do that? They don't actually control everything. They still have to deal with archaic rules like the filibuster, which is a Jim Crow era relic. So it's not that simple. And then we talk about, well, why doesn't Biden act on abortion, on protecting and codifying Roe, or doing an executive order, which he did. But again, that has to go through the courts. The courts, which were, of course, stacked under then Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and the Tangerine Tyrant and the party that helped him, the Republican Party, that has been in power in Texas, how long? 20 years? 20 years?
There you go.
So when you talk about our judicial candidates, we really, truly have, phenomenal candidates, and Fort Tarrant, phenomenal women, love them. They've done a ton of outreach and education and giving back to the community. They knock doors. They really want to hear from the people. We really like, you want to see a big bang for your vote or big bang for your buck. You know what I mean?
Either way.
Yeah, y'all get it. You get it. That's pay attention to the county judge. Pay attention to the judicial candidates. They really, I mean, you have to go to court for domestic violence or for custody or probate court, to deal with a will. Like, these have some of the biggest direct impacts on our lives. And what better than having these amazing women from our community who understand, daily life at a real level.
And I want to say that in Tarrant County, we haven't had a Democrat in a judicial seat in like what, 25 years or something like that.
a
It's
long
So, needless to say, we have some amazing opportunities to make sure that we get those judges elected. And I want to say most of them are running in open seats. So that's
I
another
think
thing
so, yes.
to take note of. And then because I would definitely be haunted if I didn't mention this, we have amazing justice of the peace candidates that are out there.
Yes.
So Jika Williams, I know she's running in precinct, I want to say 2, and then Rodney Lee that's running in precinct number 4. We have those candidates that are running, so let's make sure that we help them out. And for all of our candidates, again, Rachel, can you give us that link?
That would be tarrantdemocrats.org/voting101.
Find
Got
out
all your needs covered.
Find out all the important dates. Look at the websites for our candidates. Everything you need. Again, we're that resource hub, so we got you covered.
Yeah, what IDs are okay, what are not okay. Connecting with candidates, like, you can go click and learn about them directly from their websites. Like, we've linked all of that in one place for you. So trying to make it as easy as possible to get the word out.
100%.
Yes. Yeah, we really do have some great candidates and judicial candidates. I mean, judges are like the refs in our government, right? They're the referee. So I would like some really good ones, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Less Kavanaughs. More for Tarrant, please and thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And we can't even forget too, I just thought another judicial candidate, Stephanie Klein. And for those who do not know, I want to say Stephanie is running for a civil bench, but the judge that she is running against is the same judge that ruled. I want to say that he ruled against the mask mandate for Fort Worth ISD. So you just want to make sure that you're doing all of your research on that, because I know that
district judge.
Yes.
District.
Yes.
Sorry,
So,
go ahead.
So let's just make sure that we're researching those candidates, researching those incumbents for those that are running against incumbents and figuring out what their records are, and just making sure that we're finding the best ways to elect great candidates that's going to have our best interests at the forefront of all their decisions.
Well, State Board of Education. I mean, we've got 2 candidates, District 11 and 13, Luis Miguel Cifuentes. I'm probably saying that wrong. I apologize. And Aisha Davis. I'm sorry.
Aisha Davis.
Yes.
And she's currently our SBOE representative. And when 13, I tell you guys that she is, I'll just say she's a badass. She represents us in such a good way. And one of the things that she has brought, I know, to the forefront here recently is that they are trying to say, take out the word or take out the reference of slavery and say that it was involuntary relocation.
No.
Voluntary relocation? Really? So needless to say, the State Board of Education is an important seat that a lot of us forget about. And especially now in this whole world of CRT, when many people don't even know what critical race theory is.
Just look at Mansfield ISD. I mean, our phenomenal communications chair, Maricela, has been pointing out and keeping tab. Thank you to her, by the way, and the comms team. But they've been doing a great job of kind of keeping tabs on that. And Mansfield ISD had a ton of dark money, PAC money, like pouring in to that state, that the school board race.
Yep.
And they got their 4 candidates elected, and then they have been pulling some shit.
Crazy.
I mean, yeah, crazy. So, all elections matter. Every election, every year is an election year. There are none that we can sit out, right? Because we get the crazy, like we're seeing on the school board in Mansfield right now. But more importantly, this November, we can elect some really great state board of education candidates. So from the top down, can really do some things. And Aisha Davis wrote an op-ed and really laid out the stakes of the state board race and what they do. I'll have to find that and reshare it, because she did a phenomenal job. She's wonderful. Yeah. So we've got great candidates. We just got to get them elected. So 2 + me makes 3. Triple your vote. Talk to people. Whatever you can do. Donate. Volunteer.
Yep. There we go.
Fix this all. So the final thing I guess I'd like to talk about. There is a pastor that I kind of follow on social media, John Pavlovitz. I'm probably saying that name wrong too. I'm so sorry. And he wrote a piece on his blog. He's a blogger now. And it was titled, Kind People Are Suffering from Cruelty Sickness. And I thought, okay, I'm interested. It's not a secret. I guess I should tell you, though, Kendyll, for the record. I don't consider myself a religious person, and no shade on anybody who does. It's just not my personal beliefs. But I oddly follow a lot of pastors and rabbis and things, so I don't know. Anyway, so he wrote about this, and I thought, okay, let's check this out. So I was reading it, and he made a lot of sense, which I feel like it's a little weird saying. But the part that struck me that I thought would be kind of good to talk about, and just kind of the general mood of the county and of voters right now. So in his piece, he says, prolonged exposure to this kind of seemingly tireless barbarism begins to rob us of energy, to dishearten us to the point that we stop caring and we opt out. This is, of course, by design, and that is what those manufacturing these incessant enmity are counting on. And, I mean, very beautifully worded.
Yeah.
Let me break it down for the simple version that I like to say in my own head. But, the cruelty was the point, and they're hoping that if they're just mean enough, long enough, we're going to tap out. And it just can't be an option. We can't let mean win, right?
No.
I mean, I don't think that's what we envisioned when we envisioned America, and these American ideals and values that we all actually do agree on, right? Hard work should be rewarded. It's a pretty simple American idea that is not red or blue or left or right. It's just hard work needs to be rewarded. Yeah. And what does that look like? But it gets hard to have those conversations when we're constantly dealing with just the meanness, and that is intentional. And I guess I'm just curious what your thoughts on it are, or what you would say to our community to kind of help them through that, because we are seeing a ton of terrible stories right now. It's like an avalanche.
Yeah. Well, I think you said it best when you said that it's intentional. And they have realized what to do, what to say to get people angry and to discourage people and to get people down. And, when I see, the craziness happening, as I like to, refer to it oftentimes, when I see the craziness, it's a motivating factor for me. And it reaffirms why this work is so important, and why what we do day in and day out is so important. The point of the matter is that Until we understand that we are our best advocates and we are in some cases our only advocates, we're never going to get anywhere. Till we understand, when we understand that, that my vote really matters and that it really can affect what happens in and throughout the state and across this country, we're not going to get anywhere. Until we understand that we have to be those people that are encouraging our friends who are sleeping in all day on election day to get out and vote. So needless to say, it's a culmination of everything. And so I think that we always have to find ways to turn, the frustration, turn the anger, turn all of that into, how do we move toward progress? And that is, that comes and that looks many different ways. But,
Yeah.
ultimately, I'll say use it as a motivating fact. Use it as a motivating factor. Excuse me. Understand that at the end of the day, there's always going to be people and there's always going to be things that are intentionally done to discourage you because they recognize and understand the power of if we all band together and would actually, it would shake some shit up.
Yes.
Needless to say, just be someone who understands that at the end of the day, there's always going to be challenges and obstacles thrown your way, but if we all come together and if we turn our frustration and all of that into ways and finding ways to, move forward towards progress, and to really, find those strategies for action, that we could really, we could really be a force. And that's what it really all boils down to is, being a force throughout your own community, recognizing that you have the power to do things in your individual space, and recognizing that once you've, advocated and once you've voted and once you've done everything that you thought that you can do, find those ways to give back, whether that's through an organization, through a candidate, whatever that looks like, to increase that reach and to ensure that we're tapping into a wider net of people. So, needless to say, action, 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 motivation, 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 and ultimately progress. And I think that's what's on the ballot this election is, do we want progress or do we want to stay where we've been? And quite honestly, I think Rachel would join me. I am about to be 20. I want to see progress. I want to ensure that whenever I get to a point to where I want to start my family, that we are able to live in a society that is not against us, and that we are able to live and be as our natural selves. And I want to, ensure that I'm able to have and enjoy my rights that are supposed to be guaranteed to me by the Constitution,
Right.
without the fear of, someone getting pissed off at a Democrat and wants to go and change everything. So, needless to say, action, progress, motivation, those are kind of some of those words that come to mind. And so, yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, so well said, so well said. I do know that like convention helped kind of relight my fire because I was feeling a little run down, I'll admit.
Yeah.
But like it's not gonna stop, right? Uh, the Supreme Court issued their Dobbs decision and said, okay, precedent, not really a precedent because we don't like this one. Like
Yeah.
they're picking and choosing, and already you're seeing, the leeches of the world, the Ted Cruzes, if you will, latching on like, all right, we're going after gay marriage next. The voice is. So, it doesn't stop, and the more that we allow those that want the MAGA Republicans on the right to tear us down and to break us into little groups that are squabbling amongst each other, the harder it gets to see each other just as people. And that really is at the end of the day what it's about, right? I don't want the Constitution, my government, weaponized against certain people. I
Right.
want it to work for everybody.
Yep.
And that's the choice. It's truly that simple. Should government be used to deny same-sex couples, the right to be married, and then allow heterosexual couples to be married? Is that a good use of our time and resources? I think not, because both are people, both pay taxes, both have rights.
Yep.
I'm just not interested in that conversation. I'm not interested in revisiting that. The same way I wasn't interested in revisiting and acting like Roe is no longer precedent, because privacy is a right that I think all of us expect. And I think more people, I think it's not just a lady issue. It's not just a female issue, guys. Roe was a right to privacy. All of this affects us, all of us.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really being willing to stick up for one another and do the work and activate the voters and remind your friends, remind your families, remind your neighbors, have those conversations. You don't have to, I don't have conversations where I'm going up to people, I'm a Democrat, let's talk, right? That doesn't work. It's more
And
a
that's
conversation.
what brings people together. Like,
Right.
what brings people together are the issues that we all face. Like,
Yes.
we all have an issue of, student loan debt. We
Yes.
all have an issue of, if by the pandemic we unfortunately was unemployed and we're looking at, where's our next meal going to come from. Like, we have to find what are those common ground issues that we can agree on, those bread and butter issues, to say the least, that we can agree on, that we should be working together and trying to coalition build and work towards solutions.
Yes.
And so that's what it's about. Like, of course, we want you to be strong advocates.
Yes.
But you have to recognize what are the best ways to get people to not necessarily join you and join your cause, because everyone is unique. Everyone has something
Yes.
that's important to them. But ultimately, what's going to get someone activated? And that is what I look for. I could care less if you're a Republican and I'm a Democrat, but I guarantee you that there is one issue that we definitely share that can get the both of us activated to, talking to our elected official or writing or whatever that looks like. So needless to say, try to find those common ground issues because we all have them.
Oh, for sure. I mean, my PTA moms that I talk to, like, we are all, it is a spectrum, if you will, of viewpoints, of backgrounds, of all sorts. And it's not a conversation of, hey, I work for the Democratic Party and let me tell you, like, it's never that. It's, oh my gosh, have you seen this report? School's about to start. How are you feeling? I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling worried, because that's now, even more on our radar than it was before, because we're having so many of these tragedies. They're not getting less, they're getting more, right? That's the conversation. It's just relating on a personal, just human level. And I think that truly is what the MAGA Republicans are scared of, is that, we all see each other as just people.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed.
All right. That's all I got. Any other reminders I'm forgetting about? Oh, I do want to say I came across a little statistic that I thought was pretty cool. But under Joe Biden's leadership, I will give you a little attaboy, Joe. The bottom 40% of wage earners actually have seen the biggest wage gains in our economy. That was just recently reported. So I thought that was pretty cool. Like, we're seeing some good things, even amongst all of the terrible news and the overwhelmingness of it. There are good moments that we need to make sure that we highlight and remember and talk about, because that is the point of this work. It is to celebrate those moments and celebrate the successes, and then keep pushing for the next one.
100%. Yep. Perfect.
All right. Well, I guess we'll just wrap it there, and thanks for joining. Hope to have you on again soon.
Talk to y'all.
All right.